I still remember the sound of her laughter that night. Soft, careless, and echoing from behind that hotel door. It wasn't the laugh of a wife talking to her husband. It was the laugh of a woman who had forgotten he existed. I stood there in the hallway, heart hammering but face frozen, listening to the woman I built a life for, laughing with another man. I didn't storm in. I didn't shout. I pulled out my phone and pressed record. Through the gap in the door, I saw her reflection in the mirror, hair undone, smile wide, and then I saw him, Mark, my business partner, my closest friend, the man I'd trusted with both my company and my life. I should have felt rage, but what I felt was clarity, the kind that burns quiet, not loud. I turned away, walked to my car, and sat there for 10 long minutes until the recording stopped. Then I whispered to myself, "Not yet. Let them enjoy this." 2 years earlier, life looked different. Back then, Lisa and I were a team, or at least I thought so. I was building my logistics company from scratch. She worked a simple job at a local firm, and I promised her things would get better. When my business finally took off, I thought we'd made it together. But success changes people. She started wearing new dresses, going out more often, saying she needed space to find herself. I thought I was losing her to loneliness. Turns out, I was losing her to Mark. Mark and I had started the business with nothing but borrowed laptops and late nights. He was charming, confident, the kind of guy everyone liked. He had the charisma I didn't care to fake, but I had the plans, the patience, and the execution. When the company grew, we became equals, at least on paper. In truth, I handled most of the groundwork while he handled appearances. Lately, he'd been distant too, canceling meetings, avoiding eye contact, acting jumpy when I mentioned Lisa. I thought it was stress. I was wrong. The night I caught them, something inside me shifted. It wasn't heartbreak. It was precision, the kind that turns pain into a tool. I started digging. Hidden bank statements, travel receipts, text messages. She wasn't even careful. It was as if she believed I was too naive to see. Every message was a new cut, and every cut sharpened me. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't confront her. Instead, I played the same role I always had, the patient husband, the devoted partner. Every morning I kissed her cheek before work, pretending not to notice the perfume that wasn't mine. Every night, I asked about her charity events and nodded when she said they went late. Meanwhile, I started moving in silence. I opened a new holding company under a different name. I began transferring key contracts and clients, one by one, away from our joint firm and into my control. Mark didn't notice. He was too busy managing his private meetings. Lisa didn't notice either. She thought I was too busy saving a failing marriage. The thing about betrayal is that it teaches you the power of silence. They thought I was broken. They thought I was blind. But silence isn't weakness. It's the sound of strategy forming. One night, Lisa came home smelling like champagne and guilt. She kissed me goodnight, muttered something about being tired, and went straight to the shower. I sat on the edge of the bed, looking at the framed photo of us from our wedding day. Her smile back then looked genuine. Maybe it was. But the woman in that photo was gone. I opened my laptop and replayed the recording one last time. The laughter, the whispers, the betrayal. Then I dragged the file into a folder named Endgame and closed the lid. Tomorrow, I'd meet Mark for lunch. I'd shake his hand, look him in the eye, and talk about our next big project. Just two old friends planning a future neither of them realized was already decided. They thought I was the victim in this story. They had no idea I was about to become the author. And as I looked in the mirror that night, calm and unreadable, I smiled to myself and whispered, "Let's begin." For the next few weeks, I wore a mask so convincing even I started believing it. I became the picture of exhaustion. Late nights, silent meals, distracted eyes. Lisa stopped trying to hide her absences. She thought I'd finally given up. That suited me perfectly. The weaker I appeared, the bolder they became. At the office, Mark acted like the company was his playground. He strutted in late, dropped hints about new opportunities, and took client meetings without me. My silence made him arrogant, and arrogance makes people sloppy. While he preened for attention, I was finalizing a private acquisition deal that would quietly buy out the company's outstanding shares through my shell corporation. Legally invisible, logistically irreversible. I started redirecting our biggest clients to a new subsidiary, one registered under my name alone. The contracts were airtight. Mark wouldn't notice until it was too late, because he never read the fine print. He was too busy flirting with my wife behind my back and pretending to be the man in control. At home, Lisa was glowing in all the wrong ways. New clothes, new jewelry, and that careless laugh again. She posted pictures from restaurants I'd never been to, always with captions about self-care and finding happiness. She didn't realize that every swipe of her credit card went through a joint account I still monitored. Every lie she told was a breadcrumb leading back to me. Then came her biggest mistake. She started helping Mark plan to sell the company. She thought she'd secure her future with him once I was out of the picture. What she didn't know was that I'd already signed the sale documents. As both buyer and seller, she was celebrating my downfall while I was cementing hers. To make the act more believable, I told Mark I was stepping down for health reasons. I said I was burned out, ready to take a smaller role. He smiled too quickly, like a man who'd been waiting for that moment. Within days, he assumed full control, or so he thought. He never asked who owned the holding company that financed the buyout. He didn't care. Power blinded him faster than guilt ever could. Meanwhile, Lisa began planning a fresh start. I overheard her on the phone whispering, "Once he's out, we can finally live freely." The words didn't sting. They motivated. Betrayal only hurts when you still care. I had moved past pain and into precision. Weeks later, the company held a charity gala. It was Mark's idea, his way of honoring my contributions before my so-called retirement. He wanted me there, the old partner, humbled and forgotten. I accepted. Lisa, dressed like a queen, stood beside him as if she'd never belonged anywhere else. People whispered how radiant she looked, how lucky Mark was to have such a supportive friend in her. They didn't know the real story. They never do until it's too late. I spent most of the evening speaking to investors, shaking hands, and making sure the right documents were in the right briefcases. My lawyers waited in the lobby, unseen. The air buzzed with champagne and false smiles. Lisa clinked glasses with Mark and kissed his cheek. My stomach didn't twist. It steadied. Everything was in motion. Later that night, Mark cornered me near the balcony. "I know stepping down wasn't easy," he said, pretending sympathy. "But don't worry. I'll take good care of everything." His confidence was almost pitiful. I just nodded and said, "I know you will." He didn't catch the double meaning. When I returned home, Lisa was already asleep. Her phone was face down on the nightstand, still buzzing with messages from Mark. I stared at it for a second, then turned off the light. The next day would be the last morning she'd wake up thinking she'd won. The following afternoon, Mark and Lisa arrived at the office for what they believed was a meeting to finalize the company sale. They looked relaxed, smiling, confident. I greeted them calmly, shook Mark's hand, and offered coffee. He laughed, saying, "Feels strange signing the papers that make me the boss." I replied evenly, "Yes, it's always strange signing your own exit." He didn't understand, not yet. My lawyers entered, carrying 2 folders. One was for Mark, one for Lisa. Both contained the truth they never expected to see. I leaned back, watching as they opened the documents, their expressions shifting from triumph to confusion. The silence that followed was heavy. Mark's smile faltered first. Lisa's eyes darted across the pages, her hand trembling. She looked at me, then back at the contract. The trap was closing, and tomorrow the whole world would know who truly owned everything they tried to steal. The moment their eyes met mine across the conference table, I knew they finally understood. Mark's voice cracked first. "What is this?" he demanded, his confidence bleeding out. Lisa turned pale. Her lips parted, but no words came. I didn't rush to answer. I let the silence hum, thick and humiliating. Then I said evenly, "That's the ownership transfer you both signed. The company, the assets, the accounts. Everything you thought was yours now belongs to me." I slid another document toward them. "This one confirms your termination. Effective immediately. Mark flipped through the papers like a drowning man searching for air. "You can't do this," he muttered. I tilted my head. "You already did, when you approved the merger last month. My holding firm bought it all under your nose. You never checked who the real owner was." Lisa looked like she'd seen a ghost. "You planned this?" she whispered. I met her stare, calm and cold. "From the night you both laughed behind that hotel door." Her hand shot to her mouth, trembling. "You knew?" "I knew everything," I said, "and I waited until you were comfortable enough to stop pretending." Mark slammed the folder shut. "You're insane." "No," I replied, standing. "Just patient." I turned to the security officer by the door and nodded. Mark's access badge was deactivated in real time, Lisa's too. The sound of the lock disengaging was the final nail. I watched them both freeze, the sound of power slipping from their hands. "Get out," I said quietly. "You don't belong here anymore." Lisa's voice cracked. "Please, can we talk? It wasn't like that." "You're right," I interrupted. "It was worse, because you smiled in my face every morning and still chose deceit every night." She broke down, tears spilling, mascara running. The same woman who once laughed at my silence now begging in it. I picked up the final folder and handed it to her. Divorce papers. Clean, complete, irreversible. "Everything you bought with my name stays under my name," I said. "You leave with what you came with." Mark's jaw tightened. "You'll regret this." I almost smiled. "I already did. That's why I stopped waiting for you to change." When they finally walked out, the room felt lighter. My lawyers stayed silent as I looked out the window, city lights flickering below, a skyline I'd built with my own hands. I'd lost love, yes, but I'd gained something stronger. Peace, built on justice. That evening, the press release went public. Silent partner regains control in strategic buyout. My inbox exploded with congratulations. No one knew the full story, and they didn't need to. The truth was already written between the lines. Betrayal transformed into brilliance. Lisa tried calling that night. I didn't answer. She tried again the next day. The third time, I blocked her. A week later, I heard she moved out of the mansion after realizing her name wasn't on the deed. Everything she touched turned to dust because it was never really hers. Mark vanished from the industry soon after. Reputation ruined, partners gone. The man who thought he could outsmart me couldn't even outlast the silence. A month later, I visited the old office building one last time. The plaque on the door now read my name alone. I traced the letters with my thumb, remembering the years I spent building it from nothing. Revenge hadn't made me bitter. It made me deliberate. There's a difference. As I walked through the empty hallways, I passed the conference room where it all ended. The memory replayed clearly. Their stunned faces, the disbelief, the realization that every secret had been turned into a weapon. I didn't need to relive it. I just needed to remember what silence can achieve when used correctly. Before leaving, I wrote one final message on the whiteboard. Never underestimate a quiet man. Outside, I watched the sun dip behind the skyline. My reflection in the glass was steady. No anger, no grief, just closure. People say revenge doesn't heal. Maybe that's true. But it can balance the scales. And for some of us, that's all the healing we need. I turned the key in the lock, walked away without looking back, and thought to myself, revenge doesn't need an audience, just patience, timing, and a perfect ending.